I thought today, I'd actually let the non-voting members who come to the meetings pretty consistently introduce themselves, because we've got several new people here today and some people who've been here for a long time. And just based on my screen, I'm going to go ahead and, well, I'll start with Rick and Judy. Even though you've been very active for a long time, just introduce yourself and maybe a sentence on what you do or why you're here.
Well, we're here both under I'm a licensed engineer and licensed HVAC contractor, among being product engineer or whatever. And we're actively involved in climate action and in accelerating the progression toward full decarbonization as the Buncombe County goals and whatever and the city goals are.
When we ended up getting involved in geothermal some years ago,
Accidentally.
and we met some really wonderful people that actually got to net zero, and that's basically what we're into, is net zero. And just knowing those people, just
Working
is possible. So.
Excellent. Thank you. Brad, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
I'm Brad Rouse. Well, I've been coming to these meetings since the EITF was first started back, got into 2017. And I just want to be part of the energy transition in Buncombe County. So I'm just as a retired person doing what I can. I co-host a radio show on Monday mornings called The Climate Buzz. So some of you have been on, and I'd like to have some of the others on at some point with us, and we can talk about climate and about the work of the Blue Horizons Project. And recently wrote a book about all of this, and I'm just involved in work a lot with Energy Savers Network. So just very hopeful that we can accomplish some things with this. Thank you.
Thanks. Jack?
Maybe that's me. I'm Jackie Hampstead. I'm Buncombe County. Yeah, I'm just a liaison for the county. I write the RFP, or I'll be helping Kira write the RFP this year for the Blue Horizons Project, and just kind of making sure that the work that's being done is consistent with the contract with the county.
Great. Thanks, Jackie. I was actually talking to Jack.
Oh, there is another. I felt
That's all right.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It took me a few seconds to find my mouse and unmute myself and my dog. I'm sorry for that. Yeah, I became aware of Blue Horizons Project. I got an email a couple of months ago, more or less inviting me to apply for the community council, which I've done. I've also started to get involved in the strategic planning group. Have attended a couple of their meetings. This is the first meeting at this level. I'm relatively new to the area, moved here from the Midwest, Chicago. And as I have retired, I've become more focused on trying to become carbon neutral. So I've done so with my vehicles. I've got solar panels installed with the solar program that was run by the city and county here locally. So I've just started to get involved. I'm very curious about how the Blue Horizons Project works, and I hope to stay involved.
Great. Ben.
Hey everyone, I'm Ben Stockdale. I live in Asheville. I've been in Asheville since 2016. I recently applied for the community council and really excited about that potential opportunity. A little about me, I graduated from UNCA, and while I was a student there in 2017, I started a small group called Renew AVL with the purpose of trying to get the city to pass the 100% clean energy commitment, which the city did, and we were really happy about that. And then after I graduated from UNCA, I left Asheville for about a year and went and worked in Raleigh for the North Carolina Sustainable Energy Association, where I was a registered lobbyist and advanced clean energy policy. I also started the Squeaky Clean Energy podcast, which some of you may know, and that actually featured Sophie Mullinax back in the day while she was leading Blue Horizons project. So pretty familiar with the Blue Horizons work. And then now I work as a project manager for Pine Gate Renewables, which is a utility scale solar developer based in Asheville, headquartered in Asheville, which is really exciting. Been doing that work for about 1.5 years now. And I'd love to contribute my expertise in the utility scale solar world to achieving Asheville and Macomb County's goals. So thank you so much for having me at this meeting, and looking forward to learning more.
Great, thank you. Dan,
Hello, I'm Dan Crescent. I'm a facilities mechanical engineer and energy manager at UNC Asheville. I'll be heavily involved with the university's goals of reaching carbon neutral by 2050, and became aware of Blue Horizons Group through some faculty and other members here at the university. So look forward to listening in and see if there's any opportunity for partnership moving forward.
great, thank you. And Vana,
Hey, I'm Vana Cloninger. I own Biltmore Iron and Metal Company. I'm one of the first original recyclers. And I just came off the Air Quality Board after 18 years and have heard about this organization for most of that for a good while. And I've been intrigued about what you guys are trying to accomplish. Also was on the Water Authority for many years. And so I'm just here to learn more about your organization. Thanks for having me.
thank you for being here. Well, thank you for those introductions. The rest of us are on the board and staff. Let's go ahead and approve the November meeting minutes. I hope you all got a chance to read them. And I wondered if there's any discussion. All right, if we don't have any discussion, do we have anybody who wants to make a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve them.
Thank you, Dave. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Great. Thank you, Ken. Everybody who to approve the amendments, say aye and give us a thumbs up.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any abstentions or nays? So we're going to approve the November meeting notes. So did anybody check the bylaws? Well, at the moment we've got 6, 7 with myself, but I'm not going to be voting in the election. So I think we should just move forward with the meeting as planned.
Sure, there is one slight amendment. We're not going to be holding that vote in closed session per recommendation from Brownie.
Great. All right, so first up on our subcommittee and standing program list is Dave Gordon with our topic sign-up sheets and some practical background. If you're ready, Dave.
Yes, I'm happy to jump in here. So we've been making some good progress with the strategic plan and really trying to narrow down on some of these broader topics, and then looking into how we can figure out what will be the best initiative to get us to this goal that we're trying to make happen. So in order to do that, we've kind of come up with this system to apply, to look at all these different things and figure out how to quantify what it is that's important to us all. So to try to kind of keep it relatively short, in the meeting supporting documents, there's the latest and greatest, most honed and refined topic sign up list that a lot of folks have signed up for to contribute to. And in the last strategic plan meeting, we went over, and I just put a link in here, but we basically went over sort of what we're looking for as we look through that. So to kind of give people some context, we have here, we can kind of go to, well, we have these broad topics. Say, for example, building efficiency is a broad topic that we want to look at within the strategic plan. And then underneath that broad topic, we have specific initiatives that we believe have strong potential to help get us towards this goal of 100% renewable energy by 2042. So in order to kind of figure out, there's endless potential programs, initiatives within all these different topics, but what's going to be the best, what's going to be the best bang for our buck, what's going to be the best for our circumstances, our context, both politically, legally, financially, looking at it with this equity lens, how are we going to get there? So underneath building efficiency, for example, we can have things such as the Better Buildings Challenge or an energy efficiency checklist. And so the ask then is for folks who are knowledgeable in those arenas to then look at said potential programs and sort of provide the information and insight that they have on that for these certain topics. And I put into the chat, I think I can share my screen even. I put into the chat a link to it, the shared folder. So yeah, so in this folder, there essentially is sort of a pre-made template for folks to fill out for the different large scale topics. So since we're talking about building efficiency, I'll open that one up. And it's relatively straightforward, I think, but I know oftentimes things can get lost in translation. So please, by all means, if you have questions, shout out now, or feel free to email me later. We can kind of go through this together. But we've come up with, and there's been a lot of different folks who've contributed, but we've basically come up with sort of a phase 1 and phase 2 analysis. Phase 1 is really looking at, and this is all sort of based off of the foundation that the Cadmus Getting to 100 report provided. So a lot of this is borrowed from that. So in phase 1 analysis, we're looking at initiative ranking. So initiative, for example, we were talking about could be something like an energy efficiency checklist. Actually, I'm going to go up since a lot of this is filled out already. This is, if you look at this, here's the example. The broad initiative or the big topic is low income energy efficiency or renewable energy programs. So sorry that I'm changing gears on you and switching from building efficiency to low income energy efficiency and renewable energy programs, but this is already filled out. So I feel like it might make a little bit more sense. So that's the big broad topic. And then we're looking at action initiative 1. So that's just sort of like, what's one of the potential programs or initiatives that we think could help promote that. So ESN, what the ESN look like right now? We have our phase 1 analysis, and really we're just looking at, feasibility, scalability, cost versus benefit, and potential equity impacts. And there's sort of we're looking at it as a favorability ranking of low, medium, or high. You just kind of put into this section, what's that look like, and then why, over here in the description section. Relatively straightforward. Phase 2 is really when we start digging down into some of the more pertinent logistics. So are we looking at what's the timeline? Are we looking at near term, long term, medium term, ongoing? Who are the implementing departments or partnering organizations that are going to be working on said initiative or program? What are some activities or steps that need to be taken in order to help support this? And then really just kind of like what are the overall financial costs and benefits so that we can look at it financially. Last but not least, what else are we missing? Any sort of additional resources? And that's sort of the big thing that we've come up with that I'm going to be sending out today to folks, is that shared folder for people to get into these templates to start putting info in. So that's sort of where we are. I don't know if people have thoughts or questions about that. I know it's kind of a big info dump, but I wanted to go through it to just let you see what it looks like. I guess, does anybody have questions about any of the stuff I said?
So Dave, just to go
Mhm.
through again, how we can use this to get to those goals or what your intended purpose is. Like, we can go through, certainly read them, but what action steps would you like us to take?
So I'm going to go back to the topic sign up list that you all have. I'm going to share this again. So really the big stuff right now, this is the updated topic list. And these are the areas more or less that we think that we're focusing on. So we're looking at, as you saw, there's low income energy efficiency or renewable energy programs. We have building efficiency, that should be in bold, I apologize. Residential and commercial renewable energy and storage, utility scale renewable energy and storage, transportation, microgrids or power hubs, and then just kind of in general, we can sort of touch on the electrification of bigger industry items. I feel like that covers pretty much almost all the stuff that we have going on here. And so within this list, I know there's a lot of colors and a lot going on as we're looking at this, but folks have signed up to give their expertise and input. So if your name's on here, the ask, Keith, is to go to this shared folder with the idea being that everyone who's on here and signed up for a topic will contribute. So you're going to go to the share folder and put in the asked information. My preference would be, before you do that, to meet with the other people who are on this list. And Brad did a whole bunch of really good work, and I added some contact info in here. But we've created a spreadsheet that you asked about or asked for that has everyone's info so that people can contact each other. And I'll be sending that out after this meeting. But my ask is essentially to have everybody who's in one topic. So for example, building efficiency is all the folks I've highlighted here, to connect with each other, whether it's just a quick email, group email, and figure out how exactly it is that you want to go about filling this out together. You guys going to communicate via Zoom meetings? You guys going to meet weekly? You guys going to meet bi-weekly, monthly? You just want to do most of it via email? How are you going to work together to fill out those templates for the potential programs that are highlighted here? And you feel free to, if you feel like we've missed something major, we're not opposed to getting more info on that too. But these are sort of the main ones that we would like to have information on. So once you've spoken with the folks in your group, then it basically is just a matter of filling out that template. Does that answer your question sufficiently, or was that too much?
That's good.
Great.
Brad has a
What's up, Brad?
question.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to give a comment. I think, just as for background, there are a lot of new people, but this is really our strategic plan report that we're trying to write. And in phase one, in section 1 of the strategic plan report, we outlined all of the technical pathways of how to get us to 100% renewable energy. So basically, what we've heard all along, efficiency, greening the grid, and electrification. Those 3 things, you do them all to the max, you get 100% renewable energy. And then these general topics, each, if you look at all 7 of the general topics, they basically cover, when we added industrial and aviation, industrial electrification and aviation, basically when you look at the topics, they really cover every technical pathway that's required. So that, what we want is for people to find the topics that we want everybody to be involved in a topic or two or three, so that we can get teams set up around these topics. And then this is the goal of phase 2, which is to take our existing initiatives that are going on, like Energy Savers Network or Solarize or Neighbor to Neighbor, others, or other things that are going into the community, like the Clean Air Campaign, and figure out what are the initiatives and sub-initiatives, and then grade those so we can see how it is that we move forward to achieve the 100% renewable energy goal, and what the Blue Horizons Project specific role. And some of these, we may not be the lead. We may be trying to assist, incorporate, make sure people are thinking about us and we're thinking about them. But somehow, as a community, we need to get to this 100% renewable energy goal, or make progress towards it, knowing what we know from the part 1. So that's just my thought.
Yeah, thanks for that add-on, Brad. And I guess I'll just to piggyback on what you're saying and what you said in the beginning. So for new folks, that I tend to just jump in and not give sometimes some helpful context. So thanks for adding that, Brad. But yeah, if any of those topics jump out at you, or you feel like you might have some insight that would be helpful for us to know, please, by all means, we want this to be a group project, and to be something that we have all worked on together and are, this is a group product, that this is the reflection of our joint knowledge. So yeah, so we'd love to have everyone's input.
And I'll just say that the ultimate goal of this is to bring this back to the BHPCC in the spring. And essentially this will allow this body of individuals and all the organizations y'all represent to focus efforts on the ultimate goal. It also will help us to hopefully receive some additional funding from, whether or not it's government sources like the IRA or Energy Foundation or others, and toward this effort, and also direct our staff work on a daily basis, and some of the contracts that we have with local government to help, really drive the specific tasks that we need to do to implement each of these areas.
Great, thanks for that explanation. And one of the things that's on there is transportation. And so we've been talking about how we're going to implement transportation in a lot of different ways. And so I reached out to people using a doodle poll, and we came with a meeting date. So the people interested in transportation our meeting is a week from today, Tuesday, December 20th at 9 a.m. And I think we're going to have it at the Collider as a live meeting. We may be able to patch people in who need to do it virtually. That's my hope anyway. So in that meeting, we're really starting broad, because we just need to figure out who we think needs to be in the room to adequately address the effects of climate on Asheville-Buncombe and the future. And we also understand that even though the Blue Horizons Project is calling this meeting, we may not actually be the lead in the transportation group, because we're not best set up to work in transportation. There are other organizations who are probably better set up to do that, like the Clean Vehicles Coalition or the Metropolitan Planning Organization, or even the city and the county. But if you'd like to go to that meeting, I will send actually an invitation to, well, everybody. So next, any questions about that? Any feedback?
I just want to say we're about to vote in new members for the next cycle. And Dave, I know you've been getting feedback and bringing this to the committee again and again, but we may have to do it again and roll it out to new members. I think there will be some technical expertise we're going to want to take advantage of, certainly. Jamie and I have been talking to folks about working in a subcommittee or working group, but we haven't necessarily rolled this entire strategic plan out. So maybe an overview and an invitation in the new year as well.
Sounds great. Happy to always get more eyes on this, especially with our new folks. Sounds great.
Well, great. Well, as we move down the agenda, the next thing is the talks with the Land of Sky Regional Council and Economic Development in January. We have invited Sarah Nichols, who is the Clean Vehicles Coalition Coordinator, to present on transportation for the next meeting. Just to kind of bring the whole group up to speed about all the parts here, and I'm not sure what else she might be presenting about, but it's just one of the parts.
Yeah, I really want to hear about the money that they've got to distribute locally for transportation and like electrification, fuel corridors, because they're the Regional Planning Commission is part of what they do, the Municipal Planning Organization is part of what they do, which is bring the federal money in about transportation and find the right local projects to optimize. So there's lots of cash there that could be utilized towards decarbonizing transportation. So I think having them at the table and helping bring those resources to bear. I'm sure they're already working on this with the Clean Air Coalition, and I'm sure they already have really great leadership over there. And I think us not recreating that is a huge advantage. So I'm super excited to hear what she has to say. I guess, sorry, Keith, I got excitable, had to jump in there.
That's
and
good.
If I could just jump in real quick.
Yep.
We do need to make it clear that they generally don't have money. What they do is they help connect people to money that exists in other pots, like the Volkswagen settlement and things like that. It's not really coming through them, but they're really good at helping people tap into those sources that they know about.
And it is also one of Governor Cooper's big initiatives. He just passed another House resolution. I think it's 240 something, but I'm not good at that kind of number sort of thing. So there's a lot of potential in that. And there's also a lot of potential in building spaces with the American Reinvestment Act. So do you have any questions about transportation at this point? Or any comments? All right, I want to move into the technology subcommittee. And well,
So
go ahead.
there's three things for technology subcommittee that we wanted to bring to the full BHPCC for consideration. And I think the top one there is the biggest one. The idea of a solarized campaign for heat pump water heaters. And then the other two, the full analysis document, that is a document from the 100% Renewable Energy Strategic Planning Committee that is getting the technology folks to fill in. So kind of those two things working together. And then, of course, IRA updates. And I think Rick and Sam might have something on that front. But to start with, the first item on the list is this great legwork that Don has already started for a solarized type heat pump water heater campaign. Don, you want to take it away? Is he here?
I don't think he is, but
oh, come on. That was my baton passing. It didn't work.
Rick and Judy, to give them some credit, they've been doing a lot of work on this as well. So just want to give some shout outs too. So I don't know if you all want to jump in on that, Rick and Judy.
Yeah, I will. So the ask is, so we're at the point where we've done a little legwork. We went through Hajoka first, trying to find out. The idea is that, okay, there's a bunch of money in the IRA for heat pump water heaters. Heat pump water heaters are by far at the residential level, the lowest hanging fruit. Everybody, almost everybody, and maybe even everybody with the new ducted variants of the heat pump water heaters could upgrade to these. And the long-term money savings, certainly the carbon reduction savings is just significant. And everyone uses hot water. And so, basically what a heat pump water heater does is it uses the leverage of the refrigerant to suck in energy from other places, like your basement walls and things like that, from outdoors. So we've done the legwork. We started with Hajoka. Don followed up by working straight to the Ream regional rep, and they've given us a quote that would work like through Hajoka for a bulk purchase. And we want to get your permission to proceed with just saying, yes, we want to get into your allocation stream. We want an actual quote so that we get into the allocation. Being computer engineers, we've run into this before in the past where all of a sudden some particular thing is in demand, like a microprocessor, and all of a sudden it'll go in allocation for the next 2 years, which means the people who got in line ahead of you got it all booked. And that's where we're going to run into right now with these heat pump water heaters because of this IRA. And so that's coming, that we're not going to be able to get them. They're going to be in short supply next year. And what we just want right now is permission in the name of this organization for Don to say to this Ream rep, yes, we want to get booked here with Hajoka or whoever you say, local supply house. We just got to make sure we've got the allocation. From that, which we're just asking for like a 250 unit allocation, we can start building this program on the model of Solarize. So we're just replicating the concept of Solarize, trying to figure out, well, what are the pieces? How would we do it? What kind of, do we need to do it with plumbers or, all of that. But we need that allocation before we can move forward. So that's the ask. And I think it's in your hands because none of us have authority to do that.
One of the questions, Rick and Judy, is related to, is there any payment for this allocation up front, or is it just sort of like gets held and then we buy them as they get installed?
This is just kind of your basic quote process that happens in distribution. So a quote means that the manufacturer and everybody will kind of put it on their books, and the quote is actually for 250 units over a year. And so no, there's no financial commitment, nothing. You have to bring them in before, it's a standard distribution process. So you bring them in, you buy them, that's when you pay them. Or 30 days later, 30, 45 days later. No money. Go, Brad.
Go ahead, Brad.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, maybe I doze off, but this doesn't include installation, right? It's just a quote for the equipment, so that just like Solarize, just like we know in Solarize, if you buy a lot of solar panels, you can get a better price. But in Solarize, we also know that we had to develop a whole system for finding customers, attracting them, signing them up, installing the equipment, et cetera. So that's the challenge of doing something like this. But there is possible to, if you do it, the savings are huge. So, the savings are 75% on energy, in terms of if you're just going electric to electric. If you're going gas to electric, the energy savings are even more. The carbon savings will depend, but and clearly, if you move somebody off of a gas or oil or propane water heater to a heat pump, electric heat pump water heater, you're decarbonizing. You're moving us towards a renewable energy goal by electrifying, and it goes under the building electrification category in the strategic plan.
And we realize that this requires a real think through. So we're just looking for making sure we have the allocation in the system so that we can proceed with that level. It's like, how do we do this? Solarize brought in an outside contractor. Would we want to do it internally? Would we want to contract it? There are all these questions, but it's like, you don't want to just go running down the road and then all of a sudden you go, oh, we can't get any. That's the point. Oh, and the bigger point at the macro level, the idea is not to go do a bulk buy and just like be this new vendor and blah, blah, blah. No, the idea is to seed the community. The idea is to do something that kind of gets this going, especially with the plumbers, because, plumbers are, they're an old school group, and even more so than HVAC. And so these are not people who are just going to go, oh, sure, we want to put in a heat pump. something they can't even service, you know? So this is going to require some shift in mentality in the marketplace. And the idea is to use our organization and our purpose allocated by the city and county to help seed that new idea and think and move it forward and accelerate it. Probably like a 2-year effort, something like that. That's just sort of the thinking, you know, to get this, whatever it takes to get it seeded in the community and rolling on its own.
And I might just add one more small thing in case it eases people's minds somewhat. In all the many conversations we've had about this potential program, we've also said, well, look, worst case scenario, we can, even if we have, those 250 units allocated to us, and we decide or figure out, or for whatever reason, there's not a full-on solarized type program where we have installers, et cetera, that doesn't mean that we can't just run a program where folks sort of through this allocation say, yes, I would like one, and then they go to Hajoka and pay for it and pick it up themselves and deal with it themselves. So like worst case scenario, that's a possibility. We, through some of our conversations that we've had, we don't necessarily think that's the best road, but it's a possibility if that eases people's minds at this point, just to say, give it the thumbs up for moving forward.
And I just have one more point. The savings on heat pump water heaters, if we could do this, it would be more cost effective for the community in terms of total dollars spent than a solarized campaign. You get more savings, more movement towards our goals through this than you do through a solarized campaign.
Are you saying, Brad, like per client, like, what are you comparing it to? As you know, we're putting on 3 kilowatt PV systems on to 180 people's homes. That was like $4 million worth of economic activity as well. It's, several megawatts of PV. So you're saying that 250 units of that would equal 180 PV systems?
I've run the numbers in the past. And I don't have them in front of me, but what I'm saying is if we invested $1 million the caveat is you got to get a reasonable installation price. But I've run the payback on versus straight electric heat. The payback is better, like 4 years for somebody to swap out a water heater for a heat pump water heater. And solar payback is not 4 years, even, and especially after the IRA. I mean, it's just better payback overall. That's all.
Yeah. I think we need to separate goals and carbon emissions in that you're talking about cost versus carbon emissions, right?
Corollary.
Carbon emissions, in both the case of solarize and of the case of for solar and for a heat pump water heater, you reduce an electricity demand on the grid. So the carbon emissions per kilowatt hour saved is the same, and then you have even greater movement towards our goals if somebody replaces a gas water heater or a oil water heater. Mostly they're all gas. I mean, but the savings towards our goal are even greater, whereas there's no an analog in just installing rooftop solar. I'm not comparing this to utility scale solar, but rooftop solar. There's no analog of nobody electrifies anything by putting rooftop solar on.
Dave, you've got your hand up?
Yeah, I'd like to add one more thing that's really relevant for us here. And that is if you're replacing an electric water heater with a heat pump water heater, you're cutting your load from 4,500 watts to 550 watts. So that morning peak that we're so concerned about, this makes a huge impact on that morning peak.
So I have a really practical question, because I know that you want to know, you're asking for permission to get a bid, which we're not committing to, it's just a bid. So there's no commitment there. And then we'll have a certain period of time to purchase the water heaters at that point, whatever is arranged in the bid. If we purchase them will we have to purchase 250 units at once and then figure out a place to put them? Or will it be just getting in that line, and as they come, we'll be able to pick them out of the line?
I don't think they would be willing to commit to 250 at once anyway. Yeah, they're worried about their allocation too. So it was 250 over a year.
All right,
Spread out, which is the way stuff goes in, you know.
right. So it's kind of just establishing a parameter where we can start with real numbers to see if this is a program we want to move forward. And then we'd have to figure out all of the specific details, like whether we do it as Dave mentioned to the backup, that we'll have people who sign up for this, we'll call it a solarized campaign just for the sake of economy right now with words. So they can sign up through Blue Horizons and then go pick theirs up when they need to install it or when they get to that spot on the list. And all right.
Yeah, I wouldn't go into this, that go pick it up. I mean, you know, some people can go pick up a water heater and install it themselves.
Right.
Not everyone, you know, so there's going to be some contractors involved. We would do, like, for example, Sam and Brad, these guys have already done this with some money for heat pump water heater. I'm sorry, for cold climate heat pumps. And so this is something that, you know, the Greenbelt Alliance and Energy Savers has already done, working with getting some contractors to sign up with the program. And so we would just go figure it out at that point. And it would not be you guys figure it out. We would go off in our committees and figure this out and bring back a program, ideally, you know. So I would not make any assumptions except that we're trying to drive carbon elimination forward in our community. And we know this is one of the low-hanging fruits. And so it just makes a lot of sense to try to seed it. That's, I think, the only assumption at this point.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question about these?
Sure.
These heat pump water heaters. Does it assume that a home already has a heat pump installed for winter heat and summer cooling, or not?
No. This is a separate device. This thing looks like this looks like a water heater, just a little taller, because they have a package heat pump right on top of it.
Oh, okay.
Not only that, you get if you have a basement and you're running a dehumidifier, this thing is like a total no-brainer, because you're really using the same money that you were already using to dehumidify your basement to generate hot water, because it condensates. It generates condensate as well. You know, so it's a good thing.
So do we have any additional questions at this point? Yes, no, maybe? All right, so I guess we're looking for a motion to approve the technology subcommittee, I guess, to get bids to approach approach bids for solar heat pump water heaters to approach a solarized type campaign. Is that?
I would like to move that we empower the tech committee to approach vendors with the prospect of this, not a signed contract, not a hard and fast order, in order that we can investigate a solarized style program for heat pump water heaters.
I second.
All right, so any more discussion?
Let me please clarify, though. You know, the deal is that the Rheem dealer wants us to say, yeah, put that quote on the books. Not a hard thing. You know, these are never a commitment to purchase. It's a commitment from them to give you a price and to give you some sense that you're in the allocation stream. You know, so we would caveat it with, it's not a commitment to purchase, but we do need to ask the Rheem dealer to give us an actual quote. You know, we have this fuzzy quote that they're looking for. Do you want this? So that's the point.
Are there any other vendors we should also be asking? I mean, when we did the Solaris campaign, there was an RFP.
Well, in this case, there's basically two people making these right now in any volume. That's A.O. Smith and Ream. And the Ream is really uniquely better in some ways because they actually went to ducting it. You know, a lot of people have water heaters in a closet. Well, heat pump water heater won't work in a closet. You have no air to work with. So this style of heat pump, at least at the moment, this is a fast moving field at this point. At the moment, this is the one that fits the deal here that we know we could apply a lot of places. And it's in good distribution. It's already being stocked by Hajoka, for example, in 2 sizes right now. So this is a thing that's happening that you can depend on. Again, this is not the contractors. Contractors, that is your question. We will, of course, open that up.
Any additional questions, conversations? All right, I would like to call a vote to Dave's motion to allow them to receive quotes. Everybody give an aye and a thumbs up.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? All right, great. Thank you, Rick. Go do.
So the technology committee, there's 2 more items on here, but I forgot to put the DOE grant invitation. Rick and Judy, do you want to talk about that for a minute about heat recovery? We talked about microbreweries briefly. Okay, we'll skip that. Okay, so the other 2 items on here are about the full analysis document and filling that out. David Gordon, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, the full analysis document is essentially that same analysis template that I went over earlier. It's just as it's applied to this specific program of utilizing heat pump hot water heaters. So it's kind of just for folks who are in that realm, Rick and Judy and HVAC, for them to fill that one out.
Okay, then the last thing on here is the IRA update. If Sam or Rick and Judy want to talk about that. There was a 70% chance of a rebate that we talked about in the technology committee. And I know as staff, Steffi brought something from Rewiring America that was a really great tool to figure out how much each individual person can qualify if they're looking at what their IRA options are. So I dropped the IRA updates in there because we talked about it a lot in the technology committee.
Well, if nobody else is going to say anything, I'll just pitch it out there. You know, it's a really big deal. There's a lot of money on the table, just a whole lot. Nonprofits, the whole idea that nonprofits and government can actually get credits as a rebate from the IRS, regardless of whether you pay tax or not, you know, that all of a sudden we're actually going to just really be able to do this stuff at a real discount and accelerate the whole effort. It's a big deal. So I just say stay tuned. I don't think we've heard multiple presentations on this. There's a tax attorney in Boston that we're starting to work with a little more to kind of get more details, but nobody quite knows exactly all the details yet, but there's like literally up to 70% rebates for some things and whatnot. It's a big deal. And like there's an area, by the way, that we have figured out in our tech committee and the 100% committee that because of the coal plant shutting down at Lake Julian in 2017, 19, whatever it was, 19, I guess. That whole area down there, like all the way from the Blue Ridge Parkway, okay, down to Fletcher, all the way over to the mountains to Pisgah, that is all in an adjacent census tract that gets an extra 10% or something like that, in addition to whatever else it gets. So there's just a whole bunch of stuff in that. And big opportunities, especially in that whole area around the airport and all that, down to Fletcher and whatnot. Stay tuned.
And I'll just add that there's a big bulk of money that's going to be coming from the federal government through the IRA into local governments and state governments. So we are, kind of looking toward local government leaders and also state energy office folks to, collaborate on funding opportunities. So there's not really clear information yet about like when the deadline will be, but it says spring 2023 in terms of like when the grant applications will be open for IRA funding. And so, that'll kind of come. And then, of course, folks from Buncombe County, the city of Asheville, and also the state will have to evaluate what program opportunities exist and how we can utilize it, because there's, the direct tax credits for equipment. And then there's also programmatic support and with community-based organizations and local government. So we'll kind of be assessing on both of those pathways. And then just one other thing, there is the infrastructure bill funding has started to kind of come through more. And there's some money for energy efficiency in schools. There's some building code work opportunities that exist. There's a few other grant possibilities that are emerging right now that will still, the application process hasn't been laid out yet, but some of the money is being defined. So yeah, we keep getting, almost every week we get a little bit more information about some of these things. And we are also in collaboration and conversation with the Southeast Sustainable Directors Network, which is part of the USDN. So looking at like on a national level, like how will the money flow? And we're having a conversation with some Southeast leaders the first week of January about how the money's going to come and timing and stuff like that. So yeah, any thoughts or questions on any of those pieces?
I have a quick question. And I know that a lot of these details are being worked out, but just because a few folks, well, maybe I'll back up and say that Rewiring America calculator that Jamie mentioned that Steffi has shared is great. And I've been trying to share it with as many people as possible because I feel like a lot of people I talk to have no idea that the Inflation Reduction Act has any like applicable benefit to them. So I've been trying to explain it to a lot of people and sharing that calculator, and it's awesome. People can put in their details and figure out what they're eligible for. One question that I've gotten a few times, and maybe they don't know this yet, but if you all know, is does anybody have a sense of whether that will be based on the prior year's income? Because it's all income based. The prior year's income, do you have to guess what your income will be in 2023, or do we just not know those details yet?
My guess it'll act like other tax credits where it's basically in the year that you purchase the equipment. So if it's like you buy in 2023, then when you do your 2023 taxes in the spring of 2024, then you'll kind of roll that in and it'll be part of your overall tax picture. So I believe that's how the solar credits work. So
that makes sense. Thanks, Tim.
Great. Well, let's move quickly. We're running a little bit behind, but not too much. Through the community or through the standing programs reports, the remaining of them. I'm going to start with Community Engagement Committee with Summer.
I will do this very quickly. Also, I sent the IRA calculator in the chat if someone wasn't familiar with it. Currently, community engagement is using this document. Setting also in the chat. It's a list of churches that participate with the Creation Care Alliance. So it's a working document. We are going to start calling to go do presentations, and we're going to be piloting a hands-on presentation. Right now, we probably only have enough resources to do 2 or 3 churches, but we're wanting to do some hands-on weatherization at the churches, get the membership base to actually be the volunteers for that, and give them the tools to take it back to their own homes, maybe volunteer with Energy Savers Network in the future, or if they know anyone that we could do the services for. So we'll start making calls for that in January and getting the details fleshed out with the Energy Savers Network crew and Kelvin. So we're excited about that. If you have any churches that would be good recipients for a presentation like that, feel free to add them to that list. The other thing on here was the community climate events, which Keith, we didn't get a chance to talk about that. I'm not sure if you want to table that for next time or not.
I can just talk about it really quickly, or Ken, if you'd like to talk about the experience that we had, that'd be great too. So Ken and I, through the Sister Cities program, went to a community climate event in Ireland virtually during the pandemic. And it was a really nice, open conversation. And we thought it would be good to try to, through the communication, community engagement committee, to do a few of these throughout Buncombe counties and some of the more rural areas, which is an area which we haven't really been able to reach out to, using the libraries and the communities, and just invite people in to talk to people who know about climate, to talk to people who know about the things people can do in their homes, and just have a very casual conversation. And we just think that'd be a way to reach people we may not reach otherwise. So we just, we haven't gotten much further on it than that, but if you think it's a good idea, let us know. If you think it's a bad idea, let us know, and we may be asking you to be a part.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can you hear me? I'm having a little bit of issues with my phone, but hopefully I can't get my camera to work, but at least I can get. Can you hear me?
We can.
This is Ken. Okay. Yeah, it's a really it's a program that they started actually in Scotland, our sister city, where they call them climate cafes, where it's an informal gathering where people can bring their thoughts, concerns, ideas into a safe space to be able to have a community engagement and discussion regarding climate and what it means to people. So they've kind of turned it into something that was recognized at the COP in Glasgow last year, and it's getting a lot of attention. But it's something I think we could collaborate on through multiple channels. The one we did host was through the Collider, the Blue Horizons Project, and Sister Cities. So it brings together a couple of different organizations. But I'd love to help try to maybe roll out something similar again. That was during the pandemic last year. It was a little trickier to do it all via Zoom. Hopefully, in a perfect world, we could do it in person.
But Michelle and I have dibs in going to Scotland. Thank you, Ken. All right, fundraising? Sam?
Yeah, I'll just say that we have had just this past week a kickoff meeting with the city about the ARPA funding that we are receiving, which is for the heat pump repair and replacement program and also the Solar Rise initiative. We're also going to be funding a youth workforce development program for weatherization work too through this funding. So grateful that's moving along. And looking to 2023, we are hoping to add some support from the Dogwood Health Trust to this clean energy work, and also some, of course, IRA money too, and to keep our work with the city and the county going as well. And I'll just say, here we are in December, and you've probably gotten so many requests for money from nonprofit organizations. So you'll hear one more today, which is, we are a local nonprofit doing our work, and we can only survive and thrive if folks like you that care about clean energy will donate to us. So I'm going to put a little link in here that you can go to our website and donate. You can select Energy Savers Network, Blue Horizons Project, or Greenbelt Alliance. And all this is tax deductible. And we are doing a big fundraising push at the end of the year to try to make ends meet. So any support you can provide, on whether or not it's $1 or $1,000, is really helpful. So super grateful to get to do this work with you all.
Thank you. Energy Savers Network.
It looks like, oh, you go ahead.
Yeah, Hannah's not on the meeting right now, so I was going to do it. She emailed me an update, if that's okay.
Sweet. Yeah.
Okay. Well, to add on to Sam's message, I emailed y'all that we have a love letter for the built environment for you. So if you give me your address, we'll make sure to get that in the mail if you want to get that love letter. But as far as the Energy Savers Network update, we will surpass this quarter's goals. We'll do about 55 homes between October, November, and December. The HVAC projects from the ARPA money from the city, we have 2 in the pipeline, and there's more coming. We got data from Duke to do like the longitudinal study about what the energy use was in clients' homes before versus what it is after. But there's some issues. Like, for example, a couple of the households have like a 25,000 kilowatt hour a month. And it's like, yeah, I don't think so. You don't go from like 300 kilowatt hours in like January to like 25,000 in July. That doesn't happen. So there's some data issues that we need to work on, which is frustrating. We're working on a workforce development program for youth. We want to do it in the summer of 2023, and we're still poking around on exactly how it'll look, but it's starting to come together, which is exciting. Youth apprentices would be shadowing our crew leaders when we go out and do energy efficiency work in people's homes, which is really cool. And then we're waiting to hear back about tier 2 low-income weatherization from the North Carolina Utility Commission, as well as Duke. I think that docket is still pending. I don't think it's been approved yet. So that we don't know what's going on there as far as timelines. It's been since, I think, September. And that's what I got from Hannah for an ESN update. If there's questions, I'll try my best, but I'm not making any promises I'll be able to answer. I'll have to get back to you.
Thanks, Jamie. If there are no questions, I'm actually going to go back to Jamie for the home energy chats update.
Uh-oh. I don't have any updates on home energy chats. I got 3 or 4 in the docket last week. If y'all have people that want to do a home energy chat, we have new fella, Danny, working with us, who is the new Leah. Or maybe Leah's the old Danny. It's hard to say. But if y'all have someone that needs a home energy chat, send them our way. It's unbiased information about what's happening at their house. And then we send a follow-up email. And yeah, we've done, I'm gonna say about a dozen so far this year. So we're a little bit behind where we wanted to be. I think we were supposed to have done about 25 by the end of the year. So we need to pick that up. We had a staff transition that slowed us down a little bit. That's home energy chats.
Thanks. And before we go into the membership session with Michelle, is there any public comment?
I don't necessarily have public comment, but I think there was one community engagement piece that Steffi wanted to add in. Steffi, I don't know. Yeah, go for it.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know if this was the place, but Rewiring America is doing some really great stuff, and they have something, I guess they started the hashtag electrify everything, and they have this unfossil fuel our schools campaign with a really great introductory video for kids to learn how to approach their boards and essentially ask them to sign a resolution to unfossil fuel their school. And they give the template of how to do this. Actually, it's modeled after CCL's approach to get schools to sign climate resolutions. So I think it's a great idea. And I just thought, what better way than to empower the students themselves to speak up for their schools and help move the ball forward in that direction. And I just wonder if Blue Horizons might have could help facilitate, present to students to help get them encouraged to take this on. It might be a good outreach opportunity that, you know, spreads its wings, basically educates people on how to do it themselves, kind of a thing. Anyone have any ideas or thoughts on that?
See that Rick and Judy have your hand up.
Apologies, just wanted to say that we did want to say something.
All right.
I got something to say about that.
Good.
I know that there's been a request to do some more commercial stuff. And when we did commercial work in the past, we found that medium to large commercial spaces already kind of had incentive to do energy efficiency work. And so we were kind of spinning our wheels. There wasn't a lot of traction there. Schools having the kind of catalyzing the schools doing it themselves could be a way to break into the commercial area in a way that we are helping someone else do it as opposed to us going out and doing the work ourselves. I don't know if we have staff capacity at GBA to do that in the current moment, but if we're talking about commercial, that's kind of they're a commercial customer to Duke, but they would be in a municipal building. So it's kind of one of those weird things. But it could be something that fits into the built environment that we could work on in the future, or if we could find some additional resources.
And I'll just add that Buncombe County has invested a lot of money in energy efficiency in the schools. When Alicia Reardon was the energy manager for Buncombe County Schools, they did pretty much every single school did lighting retrofits. They've invested a lot in mechanical upgrades. Buncombe County Schools are about as efficient as possible based on a lot of the work that's happened. And also they are recipients of some of the solar work that the county and the city are leading as well. So yay for the schools. And Brownie might have some more insights.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of follow up on that too. And you know, and the students at the Asheville City Schools and Buncombe County Schools, and to some extent UNCA, I mean, honestly, if it wasn't for their work, like they're the ones who pushed the county to adopt a 100% renewable energy goal, right? They were the strongest leaders in the community, honestly, because I mean, as y'all might recall, the first time we voted on it, it failed, right? I think we got 2 votes on the county commission. And but the students just kind of kept coming back over and over and over again saying, like, we're not taking no for an answer on this. So anyway, they have definitely been, you know, leaders on this. But, you know, these kids graduate. Those kids are probably now in college or graduated from college and stuff like that. But the kids have been great over there. I'm sure they'd be up for doing more, but there is a lot happening in the space. In addition to the energy efficiency, the solar installations on the county's city, county, and AB Tech schools, over 50 buildings now, by far the largest distributed solar energy project in North Carolina history, you know, is happening. It's happening mostly on the schools. So there's a lot happening there. There's of course always more that can be done, but it is a space where there's really more renewable and energy efficiency working than probably any other sector in the whole economy at this point.
That's great. Thank you so much, Brownie, for that. And by the way, I don't know if you guys missed it, I'll put in the chat, but I worked on getting students from the Interact Club in Hendersonville High to go speak to the city council and ask them for climate action plans. So we're kind of modeling after the Buncombe County movement. And I will approach them with this on fossil fuel your schools as well. Thanks, guys.
Sure, that's great.
Thank you, Steffi. So Rick, you had a comment?
Yeah, I mean, if this is the public, if you guys are going off into closed session,
Yeah.
then let us please ask for your help, all of you, with something. So we've been pitching, you know, a lot of DOE grants and stuff like that, and doing this work with MIT, which I just happened to go there as an undergrad. And in climate action, we've ended up really working on climate action. And there's such a great study case because they're like, yeah, they're smart, but they're the same kind of engineers that are stuck in the same ways that our engineers are stuck here. So it's a really interesting thing. We've been doing this now for a couple of years with them. And in the process, we built a lot of trust with them. And we have now a couple of professors on this project and whatnot. So anyway, we filed another grant app. This one happened to do with industrial heat pumps, a particular kind of twist that we have an international patent in process on. Who knows if we'll get any of that, but there's an opportunity for Asheville for financial gain in the big picture. But in the short term, the DOE is on board too, because they realize that we're not going to get to 2030 and make a massive change unless we can drive some change in industry as well. Because I mean, industry is like 26, 30% of the energy use in the country as well. And a very disproportionately large amount of that is fossil. So they have a grant out, a piloting grant. And we beat out even a bunch of people we know at MIT who have big businesses and stuff in this field because we have some novel ideas on the table. And in particular, this idea is one that would take, for example, any brewery and decarbonize it immediately. It has to do with integrating heat pumps and thermal storage and whatnot, and all in ways that people haven't done, you know? And so these are ideas that we've proven at the mathematical level. We work with people in the geothermal industry who've proven some of this at the system level, but nobody has figured out how to like make it something you can just blanket, send out and apply everywhere quickly over a decade. So that's what this grant is about. So the DOE selected us. They said, we encourage you to file this grant. And we told them we would bring in a cluster of breweries as one of our applications. Another application, which Dan knows about, is that we're doing laboratory exhaust, and we're also doing some laboratory autoclave kind of stuff. So these are applications that go up to like 250 degrees, maybe a little above that. But breweries in particular and distilleries fit this perfectly. And here's a pot of money, up to $5 million we can ask for, depending on how many people are at the table, to decarbonize these industries. It's a huge opportunity for people who own a brewery or distillery in the city to get on board. And all we need is to them to say, yeah, we're on board. I mean, so we had this wonderful meeting with MIT's physical plant, facilities engineering last week, where after the meeting, which ran way over, they all realized it's like, there's nothing to lose. Signing up for this grant is an opportunity to get your facility analyzed, confidentially, of course, to help the society move forward. And then in year 3, after we've analyzed digital twins and then real demonstrations at scale and all that kind of stuff. So, the DOE will pay for all this. Then the DOE will pay, even after that, and 80% of everyone's time and all kinds of money. They'll pay for 50% of an installation, to which we would add on some of these IRA funds and whatnot. So there's this opportunity for carte blanche, profit from day one, a gain only way from the beginning, and you could easily walk away from this with a decarbonized process brewery and being able to wave that flag, So you're seeing Judy and ours lack of networking skill, that we have failed. We've run all our contacts in town. We've been trying to contact people, and you know what? We're excited about climate action, but not everyone's excited about climate action. So we're looking for who is, we're looking for who's interested in signing up and saying, yeah, we want to be in on this. We want the opportunity to decarbonize if we get to year 3 and we go, yeah, it's a duh, and that's really the only ask, because all we're going to do is just come in and analyze and watch. We're not even going to take much people's time to pull this off. So if any of you guys know anyone who owns breweries or who would be talked to or who would be interested, please help us out, because the deadline is January 4th, and at the moment we're striking out on this, which is not good from Asheville's cluster point of view. There is another piece just to expand your mind. This is any application up to like 250, 300 Fahrenheit, and like steam washing in cafeterias and restaurants is another potential application that we're going to try to talk to a few people about, because that would be another little thing that we could do, maybe with a school or some other facility in the county or something, to get a cluster going small.
So Rick, if I could ask you to kind of write a paragraph or 2 on each of these programs and send them to Jamie and Summer so they can send it back out to us so we can think about this a little and get back to you, that would be great. Because I do think there is some potential there. I see that you've got your hand up, Brad, but we do have to get to the next part of the meeting, so be quick.
Very quick. Just back on the school discussion, but I think this also applies to the breweries discussion, in that, I heard we say that the schools have done a lot on becoming more energy efficient, but I didn't see that they had ended their use of natural gas. I didn't hear that. And so until they end their use of natural gas, they're not decarbonized, and we got to start thinking about that. Thank you.
Thanks, Brad. So before I pass the meeting off to Michelle for it says closed session, but it's not going to be a closed session to select the new members. I do want to recognize and thank Phelps for being on the board for the last 2 years, one of the initial members of the Energy Innovation Task Force, and thank you for doing that.
Thanks, Keith.
Thanks, Phelps. Miss you.
You can still come to meetings, Phelps. You just don't have to come to meetings.
Sounds fair. Yeah, I'll look forward to it.
Great.
Oh, yeah, thanks everybody. I feel like you're off to a great start, and I wish I had more time to help. So looking forward to the future of everything.
Thank you. And I'm going to leave this part of the meeting because I did put my name back into the proverbial hat. If I do not see or talk to any of y'all, have a good New Year. And I'll talk to you a whole bunch a week from today. And we'll make sure everybody gets that invitation. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. And thank you for your leadership over the past, I think, 2 years. Is that right? Keith has served as chair, particularly during the pandemic when it's really hard to get people to gather and pay attention and do the things that we needed to continue to do as we were all panicking and reorganizing our lives to accommodate staying at home and taking care of kids and doing all the things we had to do. So thank you for your leadership in forming this committee. And I want to thank you also for being here today, because I know you are balancing some personal stuff. So appreciate you so much.
Thanks. I'll see you all soon. Bye.
Bye. All right, Jamie, do you want to tag team this? How do you want to? Jamie and I guess we'll kind of give an overview to start off with. I might see, is this? We're going to go through the process of replacing some members that are rolling off, as well as filling some vacancies. So Brad, I see you have your hand up. Are you asking a question, or is that legacy? Okay.
Well,
No worries.
I was just going to ask if the rest of us need to leave the room too.
Okay, so technically under the charter of the county, public bodies need to hold open meetings and can only go into closed session for very specific purposes. Technically, this committee was appointed in the beginning, though now we are selecting our members. So technically we will not be a public body going forward. It's very ambiguous. We're just going to keep this open. The awkward thing is we're actually going to vote on some folks that are still present as members of the public. So please forgive that. But complete transparency is important. We, by charter, have 13 members. There are 9 members that have already committed or whose terms are not up. And that includes an appointment by the city. I know there was a previous meeting, there was a comment about encouraging us to accept Maggie Ullman's application to be on this body. She's now pulled that and is going to be serving in the new year as an appointment of the city. So Maggie will be present as a member of the BHPCC, but will not be voting on her application today. I want to thank Jamie for running a really wonderful process. We did a really great job recruiting. We initially had, I'll dust it off, Jamie. We initially had 5 folks apply for 4 seats, not including Maggie, so actually 6. And one of the members another woman has pulled her application because she's actually joining the Greenbelt Alliance board, and she was a member of the Green Building Council. So there are still 5 folks, or 4 new folks, I should say, and Keith, who is reapplying to be on the council. So we have 5 potential. We have 5 applications and 4 potential seats. So it is a competitive process. All voting members did receive both the resumes, the questionnaires that applicants filled out, as well as a summary of an interview that Jamie and I conducted with each member of, or each applicant. Sorry, I'm stumbling over myself a bit. But yeah, are there any questions about the process or how we have to, what seats we're filling right now?
Could you speak a little bit about whether we need to fill all seats, or what is the goal? You know, just to select the best members. You know, I know we've talked about it previously. Just kind of curious today what the target number is, or if there is no target number that we're trying to fill.
I think we do not have to fill all vacancies or all seats. And in terms of target, we've talked a little bit about the different brackets of people that we want to participate, you know, the different types of people we really need from the community to serve on this body, with particular interest in recruiting folks from the business sector. I think if you look at the applicants, there are folks from both industrial and residential solar, which are both brackets we have listed on our charter. There were no applicants that are just, you know, of course they're from business, but they're not necessarily, you know, unaffiliated, not in the renewable energy business. We haven't recruited folks from that sector. Not that we haven't tried, but we have not been successful in getting applications from that sector. So we're not weighing, we could leave a vacancy and hope that we find someone there if that was of interest. I do think if you look at the bylaws, we do have the ability to remove folks if they're not able to attend at least 2/3 of the meeting. And I would expect that we'll have more vacancies coming up. You know, there'll just be some attrition. There always is. So if we fill the full potential seats, it doesn't necessarily mean we are not able to appoint people at some point in 2023. There are also many subcommittees and opportunities to participate, as we saw in the strategic plan. So anyone who's interested in participating and maybe missed this application period, we would really encourage you to get involved in a subcommittee or one of the subject matter areas in the strategic plan working groups, and apply. We'll do this process again next year. So this is kind of something that will be happening again.
If you want to know there's currently 11 members on the BHPCC. In 2023, there will be 10 starting in January. So Phelps, thank you for your service. He's going to be stepping off. And then, so that goes from 10 to 11 of what we got now. And then Chris's spot has been appointed by the city. So Maggie would take that spot. So those are the changes that Michelle was talking about.
So in Michelle's email, she had said 9. Does your 10 include Keith, Jamie?
Sorry, that was presumptuous of me. Yes, it includes Keith. My bad. So it would be 9 without Keith.
Well, maybe to make it easy, could we do them one by one? And if so, I would make a motion to appoint Keith to the council.
I will second that motion if that motion is allowed.
Michelle, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Motion on the table. I think just for purposes of transparency and also for the minutes, the 9 members who are certain to be on the council at the start of the year, motion not included in this, and also the new applicants and also the withdrawn application is in the chat. So I think we should put that in the minutes, and any member of the public who's interested in knowing who's returning and who's applying, those are the last names of the applicants. And also, yeah, the members. So I thought that would be helpful. Okay, so all in favor of asking Keith to return to the council? I will just mention that he represents one of the brackets in the charter, which is he is a member of a government agency, so a state agency specifically. Though not representing them here, I have found that his connections and understanding of the air quality community where we intersect has been particularly helpful. So all in favor, or any other comments, I guess, first? All right, all in favor. You can use the icon or raise your hand to indicate an aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Any abstaining? All right, I'm just scrolling through and make sure I don't miss anybody's hand. Wonderful. Unanimous. And
Yeah, this is Ken Nelson. I can't seem to get my screen to work, but I am raising my thumb for aye.
okay, thanks, Ken. Okay. Now all the voting members have seen the questionnaires, so I guess we'll just go through these one by one. Is that the easiest way? Does anybody have any comments? We'll just go.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, so Michelle, thanks for y'all spending some time on this. Just before we start going through the others, I guess I just wanted to ask if you have any thoughts or recommendations on this. We do lots of boards and commission appointments on the county. We've got all these community advisory. It's always kind of a hard thing to do because a lot of times you have more really good people than you have positions available for. And anyway, but I wanted to just ask if you, if those of you who participated in the kind of research around this have any thoughts or recommendations you would share with us about this, the positions to be filled, or any recommendations that you would make for us to consider thinking about the overall composition of the group that we're looking for, existing and, areas of perspectives or expertise that need to be filled. Do y'all have any recommendations that you wanted to the group?
Well, as we were trying to decide if we had a quorum for this meeting, and actually at the recommendation of some of the city staff, I would just say we don't have to fill every seat because it is hard to get everyone to attend to make sure we have a 50% quorum. So as background, I think people need to know that we have a requirement for 50% participation in order to vote. And I think and our bylaws say that we need a 2/3 consensus in order to move forward with any decision. So,
and now that we've reappointed Keith, are there up to three additional appointments that could be made, or 4?
3 additional.
Okay, so we
Keith
can
would be the
appoint up to
10th.
3, but we don't have to appoint all 3. And if you don't mind, if I just kind of put you on the spot, do you have any recommendations for that, like up to those 3 spots? Like who are you planning to support, having kind of looked at this and spent more time on this than we have?
Sure, and I do see your hand, Jason. So I'm gonna take the spot that Brownie has put me in, and I'm going to answer the question. Then I think I'll give Jason an opportunity. Yeah, I think we have some really talented people here. I think with Phelps rolling off, there's a hole in our utility scale solar and in the solar industry in general. I think it's important that we continue to strive for gender parity. We need to consider that when we're looking at applications. So I really would encourage that to be a particular consideration. And of course, strive for continued diversity overall. That's not necessarily something we can vote in right now, but we will continue to expand our outreach into diverse sectors as well as into diverse communities in order to continue to diversify the body. So that I think is my background. I think Ben Stockdale was on the phone, might still be awkwardly, but he's been a part of this process for a long period of time and is now working in the solar industry and industrial scale solar. So I think he would be fantastic. If you guys haven't listened to the podcast that he created, it's actually where I, stay up to date on state energy policy to this day. So it's, and also have spoken to some of his former colleagues and they highly recommend him. So definitely would recommend Ben. He also happens to be relatively new to Asheville, well, a few years, probably not as new as some of our sitting members, but is from Western North Carolina. And I think that is an important piece to consider as well as the relationships of being local, frankly. Let me just see here. Clary, who I think, Jamie, is Clary's last name Franco? Am I getting that right?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So Clary Franco is a project manager at the solar company we work with all the time.
Sugar Hollow
Sugar Hollow Solar.
Sugar Hollow
Yeah,
Solar.
thanks. Right. So that is another solar. Thanks. Jamie. Oh, you're on mute now, so it's okay.
Summer's laughing at me. I was defending myself.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So that's residential solar, and I think have been a really valuable partner, and having them at the table in order to help us make some of the decisions that even some we were discussing today. I think that's an important insight. So I would also recommend Clary. And again, I'm also striving for gender parity whenever possible. And then Jamie, actually, you had a little bit more of an understanding of Seth's background because you'd actually worked with his organization. So maybe you can speak a little bit about.
So Seth Little works for ClearResult, which is an implementer for energy efficiency programs for utilities and government agencies across the country. They were the biggest game in town for a while. They still might be, but they've got some competition now. But he brings a national and maybe even a global perspective on what's happening in the energy efficiency implementation world from the utility perspective. But he lives in town, and like many of our applicants, wants to do something local and be more involved locally. So yeah.
Thanks.
Does that go?
Interestingly enough, even I think Duke is actually a client of that company's and helping them to roll out energy efficiency programs. So really has a really wonderful perspective. So those would be my recommendations. Jack is wonderful and has a really great resume from some industrial work that he's done and is actually helping the city revamp their boards, or on the committee that's helping the city look at how to revamp their boards and commissions. It has some good organizational development work, but I would recommend the other three for their specific knowledge of the sector.
Thank you. Appreciate you sharing all that. That's really helpful to hear.
You're on mute again.
I'm on mute. Sorry. I see your hand, Dave, but I'm going to go to Jason, who had his hand raised before. And then Dave, I'll take your comment.
Yeah, Michelle, actually, you kind of summarized where I was going to go. I've known Ben for a little while, and I think that his voice is a unique one. He offers a perspective that I think would be great for the council, as well as Clary. I think also with Phelps rolling off, that would be great. And I didn't know Seth. And all I got was just a little bit from the packet that he shared. And so there wasn't a lot there. So Jamie, I appreciate what you shared about that, because I certainly did not take that away from the packet that he shared. And so I was certainly, just to kind of weigh in, I didn't want you to get put on the spot too bad with Brownie. And so I decided to be on the spot with you. But in looking at those two, I do think that both Ben and Clary would be good members of the Blue Horizons Project Community Council. Again, I can't really speak to Seth's background. All I can speak to is the packet that I've received from him, and I didn't feel as it was as full and detailed, perhaps, as some of the other packets. But again, I trust Jamie's opinion there. But definitely could see both Ben and Clary as good members of the Blue Horizons Project Community Council.
Thanks, Jason. Dave?
Thanks, Jason.
Yeah, let me start off by saying, I think one big, very extreme hole that we have is not having David King. And I notice, so my real advocacy there is I'd really like to hold a spot open for somebody like maybe Dan Croissant. He started showing up recently, and I'd say Jackie Hampstead, but she works for the county now. But somebody with that kind of institutional facilities management background, I'd really like to keep a spot open and try to get somebody with that background to basically to replace David King. And I would like to resoundingly second the notion of Clary Franco. I've had a number of dealings with her over the years, and I think she would be a huge asset to this group. And unfortunately, I'm going to be a little contrarian, as is my wont, and say I'd really rather not have Ben, because I think utility scale solar is already overrepresented in this group. Nothing personal, Ben, I don't know you, but we've got between, if you look at this group, we're overrepresented, and that, I see that as a problem.
Well, I've got to go to a meeting in a few minutes, so I'm going to make a motion. Move this ahead. I'm going to make a motion to appoint Clary Franco, Seth Little, and Ben Stockdale.
Can we take them up
I would really
individually, maybe?
prefer that we do these individually and not as blocks.
Okay, I'll run through this one by one, but I really don't want to lose Brownie, so we're gonna do it quickly if you don't mind. So we'll start with Seth Little. Can I have a
I move to
motion?
appoint Seth Little.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor? It's hard for me to get a count with an eye, so if you can do a visual, that would be helpful. So we have 1, 2. I'm voting aye. 3. Phelps, I can't. Oh, is that an aye? 4. I might even have to do roll call on this. Jeffrey.
I was gonna abstain for voting on that one, in the interest of holding a seat open.
Abstain. Okay. Rocky.
I'm abstaining. Thank you.
Rocky. Jason, I'm noting your not hand. Okay.
That's correct, but only in the spirit of holding one seat open so that we have some flexibility to fill it.
Okay. So is that a no or an abstain?
It's a no. Yeah, I mean, I'm voting no because I want to hold a seat open.
Okay, great. And Jeffrey, you're abstaining though. Is that true?
I'll vote no. I mean, yeah, I guess that's
Okay.
really
And
what it is.
Dave, you're voting.
I would be inclined to abstain, but I think in the interest of holding a seat open, I'm going to say no.
Okay, so that's that does not carry. Okay. So we are not.
So could we just for clarification, could everybody who votes no raise your hand? Okay, so I see 3 no's, but I saw 4 yeses.
Right, and was there not an abstention as well?
I'm abstaining.
Yeah, Rocky's abstaining, and we need a 2/3.
We need 2/3 to make a decision.
And this is a 50-50 anyway. It's not, it doesn't carry. Actually though, let me just make sure I counted myself. I'm sorry, this is so awkward. We have Brownie, yes. I have all the Ken Nelson, yes. Michelle, yes. Phelps, yes. Did I miss anyone else who voted yes? We're just gonna have to do roll call on all of these. I'm sorry, it just has to be that way. Okay. Ben Stockdale. Do I have a motion to, I think in Brownie's motion, there is a motion to appoint. Ben Stockdale.
I'll make a new motion to appoint Ben Stockdale. And I think Ben brings a ton to the table in addition to his great experience in the solar industry in various capacities. So I'll make a motion to appoint Ben.
Second.
Thank you. Was that a second, Jason? Okay, great. So Jason, yes. Brownie, yes. Can I? Where did every, for some reason, okay. Michelle, yes. And then, so sorry, I'm missing the little windows all of a sudden. Okay, great. Dave Earp.
No.
All right. Yes, no, abstain. Rocky.
Yes.
Thank you. Phelps.
Yes.
Ken Nelson.
No.
And Jeffrey.
Yes.
Did I miss anyone? Okay, great. So that carries 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, sorry, 6 yeses, 1 no.
I think there were two no's.
Or 2 no's.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, 6-2. But that carries. Welcome, Ben. All right. Do we have a motion for Clary Franco?
I'll move to put Clary on.
Second.
Okay. Dave, yes. Who was the second? Sorry.
Brownie.
Brownie, yes. Michelle, yes. Rocky.
Yes.
Thank you. Jason. Thank you. Ken Nelson.
Yes.
Thank you. Phelps.
Yes.
Thank you. Jeffrey.
Yes.
Thank you. So did I miss anyone?
Brownie votes yes.
Brownie, yes, I had you as a motion maker. Thank you. All right, unanimous. Clary Little, or sorry, Clary Franco joins the committee.
Hey, Michelle, for just for
Mhm.
clarity of the minutes, I'm gonna go back to something, Brad. Now that we've gone through all of these, I think we should probably revisit Seth Little, because my number, we might want to do another roll call on that, because it seemed really close. And I'm not sure that the math is adding up now that we've gone through the other two.
Yeah, I think I have it as 3 no's, 1 abstention, and 4 yeses. That would be 8 and 8 on all of them. But we are, we could go through it again if there's room for this, if the committee wants to entertain a revote on Seth Little. There's also Jack Hefeli, if I'm saying that properly.
Yeah.
In the processes, you need 2/3 of the people actually voting to vote in the affirmative for a motion to pass, correct?
Yes.
Well, I guess I would just ask, I heard some folks vote against Seth not against Seth, but just to keep a spot open. But I think there's going to be a spot open anyway. So I would just ask if any of the folks who voted for Seth for that reason in changing your vote, if yes, perhaps it should be revisited. But if not, then I think it's a settled question.
I will say, I think that Sam was excited to see that Seth had applied. He thought it brought, a level of understanding of energy efficiency policy to the table that we don't currently have on the committee.
So, Michelle, if we were to vote Seth in, there is still 1 more seat to be filled.
No, we would be full at this time.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did the math wrong. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
We're
There's been
done.
a lot of math. There's been a lot of math at the end of the meeting.
Sorry, I was thinking there was 4 more, but we already did Keith.
We did Keith. Yeah. So yeah, we would no longer have any vacancies. Like I said, there is attrition on all these groups. So, I mean, I don't see it necessarily as we should just hold a seat for a person who didn't apply. And who we don't know and didn't recruit to apply. I mean, this is the time to fill vacancies. So that's kind of my thinking, but
Well, then Michelle, I would make a motion to let's go back to Seth Little, and after this conversation, let's open it up for just one more vote to give people a chance to kind of say their piece one more time.
okay. I'll take that as a motion. Jason, thank you. And do I have a second for that motion?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Brownie. Okay, roll call one more time. And so Seth Little, Jason, I'm going to put you down as a yes. Brownie as a yes. Phelps.
I've had a guess before.
Yep. And I'll take that you're voting yes again. Thank you. Ken.
Yes.
Thank you. Daverb.
No.
Thank you. Jeffrey.
No, and we also haven't voted on Jack. We feel like we probably should. Maybe after
Someone would
this
have to take a motion, make a motion. So if you want to do that, we can do that next. And Rocky.
I vote yes. I changed my mind after learning about the energy efficiency.
Great. And Michelle votes yes. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 2 no's, I believe. Because we have two folks who are Jason and Rocky who have come over. So that carries.
So then I guess we're full now. So Jack would be put kind of in a holding bin, stay interested. Next time there's a vacancy, we'll revisit, right?
That's right. And Jack, if you're on the phone still, I just wanted to check. Jack has joined the Strategic Planning Committee, which is a great use of his industrial organization talent. I think it'll give him some exposure to the content of the committee and is a great way to get involved. So, yeah. All right.
Before we wrap it up, I just want to say thank you to Michelle for the amount of time and energy she put into this and thoughtfulness and making sure we were getting it right. And it was a real pleasure to be a part of that. So I'm just glad that Michelle's on the team, and congratulations on being the chair next year.
Yeah. Well, if everything runs as smoothly as this, it'll be terrible. So thanks, guys.
Stop it. This was great. I've been way worse in voting meetings. Good job.
Yeah. Well, it's, this is our first time going through this process. So I really wanted to make sure to kind of lay the groundwork for a transparent and inclusive process. And Jamie's definitely been a big part of that too. So thank you all for bearing with us today. And I guess Jamie will notify the members.
I can. You and I can talk about it. You and I can talk about it offline, but Summer and I can definitely take care of it. We do have the capacity.
Okay, wonderful. We'll create a letter and inform them. Great. Does anybody have any closing thoughts on the process or anything else they want to say about appointing people to a non-public body? Apparently, it's very awkward. Yes, Rocky.
I do want to bring up one thing. So this timing is actually a little difficult for people working 9 to 5. And I wonder, I didn't know where else to bring up, but I was wondering if there is any thoughts or will there be any consideration for a change of time to be more accommodating of people's schedules?
Thanks for bringing that up. I do know some people are here as part of their job, including staff and, Jason, but most of us are here as volunteers outside of our, in our professional capacity, but here as volunteers. So it's a balance. Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
I think with a bunch of new members in January too, it's a good moment to talk about it again because everyone has different schedules.
I do wonder about trimming the time of the meeting down a bit to make it easier to accommodate as well. So definitely noted, Rocky. I really appreciate you hopping on today. Rocky had written and said he had a conflict, so he made some space, and Jason also. So thank you, and definitely noted. We'll take it up in the new year.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everyone, have a wonderful holiday season. Enjoy time with family, friends, people, trees, food, whatever you like to do, really. We'll see you next year.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Happy holidays.
Thank you.
Thank you.